Developing right now on Morning News Now, pressure and peace talks overseas. This morning, President Trump pushing Ukraine's president to end the war in Ukraine by Thanksgiving as U.S. and Ukrainian officials meet to discuss a controversial 28-point peace plan.
The Ukraine war with Russia should have never happened. If I were president, it never would have happened. We're trying to get it ended. One way or the other, we have to get it ended.
Meanwhile, in Ukraine, the fighting rages on, with Russia launching a deadly drone attack on a key city. We'll bring you the latest. New this morning, manhunt over a Wisconsin woman who admitted to the infamous 2014 Slender Man killing when she was 12 years old. Now, one day after cutting off her monitoring device and walking out of her group home. We'll get an update from officials. Plus, a troubling trend, more and more young women diagnosed with lung cancer without a history of smoking. The alarming new report and what doctors want you to know. And we'll travel for Turkey. This morning, millions of Americans getting on planes, trains, and automobiles ahead of Thanksgiving. But a series of severe storms could gobble up your holiday plans. We're tracking the conditions and your Turkey Day forecast. The official kickoff of the holiday season.
There you go.
Week.
And many of you already got to your locations, and you're probably feeling grateful for that on this Monday morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer.
And the Sellers, thank you for starting this Thanksgiving week with us. We're going to begin our show with the intensifying diplomatic efforts to end the war between Russia and Ukraine. On Sunday, U.S. officials, led by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, held talks with a high-level Ukrainian delegation in Geneva to discuss a 28-point peace plan that critics say favors Moscow.
As the discussions began, President Trump injected new drama, raising the stakes. He accused Ukraine of showing, quote, zero gratitude for America's support. On top of that, Mr. Trump set a Thanksgiving deadline for Kyiv to accept the proposal. Despite all that, both sides did appear to strike a positive note during yesterday's talks, saying progress had been made over an updated and refined peace framework. Secretary Rubio summed up where things stand.
I think we made a tremendous amount of progress. It is probably the most productive day we have had on this issue. Maybe in the entirety of our engagement, but certainly in a very long time. But work remains, and because this continues to be a working process, you know, I don't want to declare victory or finality here.
In a few moments, we will speak with the former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, John Herbst. First, let's get to NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba. So, Monica, critics have pounded on this 28-point peace proposal, with many questioning who it serves best and who actually authored it. So what more do we know at this stage, and how have the terms improved for Kyiv following yesterday's talks?
Yeah, so there's some cautious optimism this morning following that flurry of diplomatic activity, but there are also still a lot of questions, Joe and Savannah, about how this peace plan came to be. The United States maintains that it was a U.S. authored document with input from Russian officials and Ukrainian officials, but a couple of days ago when that first emerged, Ukraine said that it had not been consulted in the same way and really had some concerns about some of the territorial concessions that are in this draft and in this proposal, and about some of the other major issues that still need to be worked out. There are still the big questions around security guarantees, something that has been very critical to Ukraine. But now it does seem, at least given those comments that you just played, that both Ukrainian and U.S. officials have left it in a place where they feel at least it has been improved upon from the Ukrainian perspective. We did see, though, however, President Trump very critical of Ukrainian leadership. Remember, if those comments sound familiar, it's because back in that major blow-up in the Oval Office, that was the tone, that there hadn't been enough gratitude expressed at that time by President Zelenskyy. But despite that, again, it does seem these talks continue. There will still be more negotiations over the really critical pieces. And the president had tried to set this Thursday deadline, Thanksgiving, but says that isn't his final offer, that talks will still continue beyond that.
Monica, a moment ago, Joe mentioned these accusations by President Trump saying that Kyiv, Ukraine, has shown zero gratitude for American support. Have we heard reaction from Kyiv, from Zelenskyy on that? And does it seem likely that this proposal could be accepted by Thursday?
It seems really difficult in terms of the exact agreement that everything can be solved in a matter of the next 4 days. So it does seem like this is going to continue. But we did hear from President Zelenskyy that he was grateful to his U.S. partner. Remember that in the face of all of this, he said he was facing an incredibly unenviable position, which was for Ukraine to lose its dignity in accepting the current proposal or to lose a really key partner and key ally in the U.S. But here's how Secretary of State Marco Rubio put that point in terms of where the discussions are right now.
The deadline is we want to get this done as soon as possible. Obviously, you know, we'd love it to be Thursday. I feel very optimistic that we're going to get there in a very time. Our goal is to end this war as soon as possible, but we need a little more time.
So the talks continue between the delegations, but Secretary Rubio has returned to the United States. We know the president will continue to monitor this all day today, and the conversations will continue, guys.
Monica, has Moscow weighed in on these latest developments?
So they say that they haven't received proposal or framework. They certainly have read about everything in the media reports as has been communicated in terms of what is in this peace plan. Certainly a Russian envoy who has been in contact with the White House special envoy, Steve Witkoff, has been briefed along the way. But in terms of where the latest things stand, Moscow, the Kremlin say they're still waiting for that information. And once they get it, they say they will weigh in, but that they are ready to have this conversation. And they also claim they want to see this go forward. Though, again, we all know, guys, that the devil is in the details here, and many of them simply are just not ironed out yet.
All right, Monica, thank you so much.
Well, let's continue this conversation with former U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine, John Herbst. Ambassador, good morning. Always great to have you with us. So, as we've just mentioned, both the U.S. and Ukraine, they're saying this meaningful progress has been made following talks. It's still unclear what is in this updated framework, but do you think there is a reason to be optimistic here?
Well, there's no optimism, no sensible optimism that you can reach an agreement quickly for a very simple reason. Putin does not want to end the fighting. I think the Russians like the draft that was put in play by the United States, and its origins are peculiar, to say the least. But they have not said yes to this. And in fact, if you had an agreement between the U.S. and Ukraine on some elements based on this plan, the Russians are going to ask for more. But the fact that we're not insisting on a deadline of Thanksgiving and then putting penalties on Ukraine for not accepting an unacceptable draft is a very good thing.
We've seen this back and forth from the president. We had that chaotic Oval Office meeting with Zelenskyy earlier this year, which Monica just mentioned. Then the president was critical of Putin. Now he's accusing Ukraine of showing zero gratitude, imposing this Thanksgiving deadline. If you're Kyiv, how are you interpreting all of this rhetoric? And do you have any concerns at all that Zelenskyy might be pressured into accepting a plan that doesn't totally suit Ukraine?
I think that the 28 points as put down with a deadline of Thanksgiving and a threat to withdraw American military intelligence was putting pressure on Zelenskyy. I think Zelenskyy has smartly handled this by saying, I'm ready to negotiate. And now they're negotiating. And I suspect the Ukrainians have worked very hard at getting the most egregious provisions out of it, like giving up heavily fortified land in western Donbass, which Russia has tried to conquer for nearly 4 years unsuccessfully, giving that to Russia. That would be a huge mistake for Ukraine, a huge mistake for the United States.
Over the weekend, European allies tabled a counter proposal which they believe is more favorable to Ukraine. Where are European leaders at in this? What role should they be playing?
The European leaders, as you know, descended on Washington after the Alaska summit between Putin and Trump, and I think they had a positive impact. And I think they're trying once again now to balance the influence being exerted on Washington from Moscow. And I think they'll have some success with that because Trump has very good relations with many of those European leaders.
Ambassador Herbst, thank you as always.
My pleasure.
New York City's Mayor-elect Zoran Mamdani is setting the record straight after his first White House meeting with President Trump went viral.
Yeah, the pair appeared to find common ground on Friday despite trading insults just weeks before during Mamdani's campaign. The president even praised the mayor-elect during a press conference, saying that their meeting surprised him. NBC News Meet the Press moderator Kristen Walker spoke with Mamdani about it afterward.
Hello there, Joe and Savannah. This week on Meet the Press, I spoke exclusively with New York City's mayor-elect Zoran Mamdani following his face-to-face meeting with President Trump in the Oval Office. Here's what he said when I asked him if he still believes the president is a fascist. In that press conference with President Trump, a reporter asked you whether you believe that President Trump is in fact a fascist, a word that you've used in the past. You were about to answer. Then President Trump sort of jumped in and he said, quote, "That's okay. You can just say yes. It's easier than explaining it." So, Mr. Mayor-elect, just to be very clear, do you think that President Trump is a fascist?
And after President Trump said that, I said yes. And
so you do.
And that's something that I've said in the past. I say it today. And I think what I appreciated about the conversation that I had with the president was that we were not shy about the places of disagreement, about the politics that has brought us to this moment. And we also wanted to focus on what it could look like to deliver on a shared analysis of an affordability crisis for New Yorkers.
You've also said in the past that President Trump has engaged in a, quote, attack on our democracy. You've called him a despot. Do you still believe President Trump is a threat to the democracy?
Everything that I've said in the past, I continue to believe. And that's the thing that I think is important in our politics, is that we don't shy away from where we have disagreements, but we understand what it is that brings us to that table. Because I'm not coming into the Oval Office to make a point or make a stand. I'm coming in there to deliver for New Yorkers. And a few weeks ago, I was asked by a reporter 3 words to describe myself. I said, New York City. And that's what animated that conversation. How do we deliver for the people of New York City?
You can see my full interview and a whole lot more at MeetThePress.com. You can also get more Meet the Press right here on NBC News Now every weekday at 4 p.m.
All right, Kristen, thank you. Well, on Capitol Hill, the sudden resignation of Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene has caught many in Washington off guard, including her one-time ally, President Trump. The president told ABC News that Greene did not notify him prior to announcing her plans to step away from Congress in January. Greene revealed the news in a post on X on Friday, comes weeks after tension with Mr. Trump over the release of the Jeffrey Epstein files. Here's part of what she said.
Loyalty should be a two-way street. Standing up for American women who were raped at 14 years old, trafficked and used by rich, powerful men should not result in me being called a traitor and threatened by the President of the United States, whom I fought for.
For more on this, let's bring in NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Melanie Zanona. Mel, good morning. So the Congresswoman, she gave this pretty lengthy explanation about her decision to resign, referencing this fallout that she's had with President Trump. Tell us more about what she said and what do we think about her political future?
Yeah, good morning, Savannah. This resignation sent a political earthquake through the GOP and through MAGA world. And yet it also wasn't entirely surprising because MTG had been increasingly criticizing both Trump and the GOP for months now on a variety of issues, especially the Epstein issue. And so I talked to a number of sources who were close to her, and they said she was really disillusioned with politics. And the reason is because she was one of Trump's biggest supporters in Congress, even after January 6th. She rallied by his side. And yet she was passed over for a job in the Trump administration. The White House talked her out of running for the Senate in Georgia, saying she would never win. And so she was just really fed up with politics. But the straw that broke the camel's back was the fact that last weekend, Trump came out and said he was going to unendorse her and potentially support a primary challenge, something we've seen play out in a number of other instances. But for her, though, that was a red line for her. She even referenced it in that really lengthy announcement. She said she doesn't want to put her district through a brutal primary or herself through that. She even referred to herself as a battered wife and said, I'm not going to put myself in this situation anymore. So in terms of her political future, there was some speculation that maybe she was going to try to run for president in 2028, or maybe she will now try to run statewide in Georgia now that she is a total free agent. I'm told, though, that she is, like I said, very jaded with politics and that right now running for president or anything is just not in her cards.
Mel, yesterday, President Trump, he posted on Truth Social referencing this and saying that the Republican Party has never been so united as it is right now. Before he did single out a handful of Republicans, including Marjorie Taylor Greene. You can see here calling her Marjorie Trader Brown, sort of a nickname for her there, calling them these exceptions. What do you make of the president's assessment there? How divided or not is the GOP right now?
Well, I've covered Republican politics for almost 15 years now, so I've definitely seen it more divided and at a lower point before. But I will say this is the most divided I've seen the Republican Party in Trump's second terms. The Epstein issue was a huge divisive issue inside the MAGA world. Even though Trump eventually got behind the release of the Epstein files, he only did so once he realized he was about to face a massive revolt on the House floor. And then there's the issue of the trade war and how tariffs are starting to impact farmers in red states. We've started to see some senators and lawmakers push back on those. They've also said they're not behind the idea of sending out rebate tariff checks, something that the White House has been floating. And then there's a number of Republicans who are really uncomfortable with some of Trump's foreign policy, from the bailout of Argentina to these Venezuelan boat strikes. And so that is not a good position for the Republican Party to be in as they are about to address this really tricky topic of health care. There's a lot of division there, too. There's a looming cliff at the end of the year where these Obamacare subsidies are about to expire. And so they really are going to have to get on the same page if they're going to solve that issue.
Absolutely. Mel, I do also want to ask you about something that we saw here from the Vice President, J.D. Vance, weighing in. This was on that video our viewers might remember from last week. A group of Democratic lawmakers made this, produced this, put it out on social. Here it is on your screen, urging active duty military members and intelligence personnel to defy what they had referred to as illegal orders. Well, in a post on X, J.D. Vance said, if the president hasn't issued illegal orders, then members of Congress telling the military to defy the president is by definition illegal. Walk us through the fallout that we've continued to see here over the weekend.
Yeah, well, just to be clear, what that Democratic video was saying was that military members should defy illegal orders. And so clearly there's some back and forth here over what would constitute as illegal versus illegal in the minds of the administration. But these members, since putting out that video, have continued to face death threats. Just this weekend, Alyssa Slotkin, she's a Michigan senator, a Democrat, she received a bomb threat at her house. Now, thankfully, the Michigan officers who responded determined that there was no threat. It was just a hoax. No one was actually in any danger. But it is just an example of how Trump's heated rhetoric is having very real consequences. Alyssa Slotkin has been having to walk around with a United States Capitol Police security detail, and she is hardly alone in the type of threats and violent voicemails and all the incoming that these members are taking. But that being said, Trump has really said he is not threatening those members. He has continued to stand by his remarks, as has the White House, as you saw with that J.D. Vance tweet. Savannah.
All right, Melanie Zanona, thank you so much.
A man accused of helping that former Olympic snowboarder turned alleged drug kingpin is behind bars this morning. The Canadian Broadcasting Company reports that 32-year-old Rashid Pasqua Hussein was arrested Friday by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Authorities say he helped facilitate money laundering for the drug trafficking network that's allegedly led by ex-Olympian Ryan Wedding.
Now, Wedding is still on the run, and officials believe he is being sheltered by drug cartels. Just last week, a federal indictment accused Wedding of ordering assassinations of rival traffickers and a witness expected to testify against him. Now, prosecutors have charged Wedding with murder, witness tampering and intimidation, money laundering, and drug trafficking.
A record number of Americans expected to hit the roads and take to the skies this weekend ahead of Thanksgiving. Over the weekend, many of you already successfully landed at your holiday destinations. And if you still need to travel over these next few days, well, severe weather is in the forecast. That could create some major travel troubles. AAA estimates in all, 82 million people are expected to travel at least 50 miles from home during this holiday week. NBC News correspondent Ryan Chandler is in rain-soaked Dallas and joins us now with the latest. Ryan, good morning. So when it comes to holiday travel, how's it going so far? I know it was a busy travel weekend.
It was, and this severe weather is so ill-timed. Just as millions of Americans are trying to hit the roads, you see travelers here at DFW Airport are already drenched as they're unloading their luggage. The travel story at this hour really depends on where you are. Here in DFW, about a quarter of all flights in and out of Dallas have been delayed or canceled this morning. As this storm moves on, we do expect that to get better, but treat that as a bellwether for what could come. This storm's going to be sweeping over some of the busiest travel hubs over the next 2 days, from Memphis to Nashville, Atlanta, even all the way up to the East Coast. So plan ahead, get here early. We've already seen some trouble at JFK, for example. One of their terminals was temporarily shut down for a system outage. So certainly not what you want to see on this busy week, but travelers are hoping for the best anyway, Joe.
Let's talk about something that I think a lot of travelers have on their mind, one specific hurdle, and that was whether there are any lingering effects from the government shutdown right now.
So airlines are expressing optimism, right? Back to full capacity, even adding flights to deal with the demand. We've heard from TSA agents as well. I mean, they have this huge stressor after a month where they missed a paycheck because of the government shutdown. They also say that they're ready, they're staffing up. They call this their Super Bowl, and they want to impress the American public with what they're able to do, even in light of that government shutdown. So still some lingering anxiety from that, you're right, but most of the key players are saying that they're bouncing back strong, Joe.
Super Bowl before the Super Bowl. So we like to talk about airports, but by far most folks are going to be traveling by road. So with gas prices holding around $3 a gallon, just how busy do we expect the highways to get this week?
90% of all those 82 million American travelers are going to be on the roads. As much as we talk about airports, almost everybody who's traveling is choosing to drive. Maybe it's that anxiety about the airports. Maybe they got a big family with them. But yes, the highways are going to be busier than usual, later in the day than usual. So always try to leave early. We talked with a travel expert about what you can expect on the highways.
We're anticipating between 12 and roughly 8 or 9 p.m. to have the heaviest amount of traffic. So it's going to be a continuous flow of people on the road. So our biggest piece of advice over at Going is if you can, get out there early.
And those busiest times expected to be before Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving Day, actually the least traveled time, as you would expect. People are already home with their families for dinner, Joe.
And I guess if you can't leave early, then leave at 9 p.m. I guess that would be your next best option. All right, Ryan, late last week we talked a lot about train travel as an alternative for those who are worried about airports and traffic for hours. Amtrak says it has seen a record number of passengers so far this year, especially recently. Do we expect more people to travel by rail this week?
Amtrak is seeing record booking numbers. Maybe it's all that anxiety about coming to airports. Their sales are up 8%. Even buses have a 17% increase in travelers, according to our friend Katie there with Going. So yes, people are leaning into alternate means of travel, whether that's by bus or rail, something that we wish we could do here in Texas, Joe. I mean, we're jealous up on the East Coast with your rail system. This is such a big state. I mean, I'm flying to Houston tonight. We'll see if I get off the ground. Who knows?
Maybe this will encourage Texas to now build a rail system that gets you to all the major cities there. All right, Ryan. We're going to will it into existence. Ryan, thank you so much. Stay dry.
Well, now let's get a check on your holiday travel forecast. That's the big wrench here, right, with meteorologist Andrea Romero.
Hey, Andrea, good morning.
Good morning, Joe and Savannah. And we do have a couple of storm systems that we're going to be watching today into the week that will be impacting the holiday travel for a lot of people. So today we do have the risk of some severe storms. We can see all that activity right now, that lightning that's falling close to Dallas at this time. We are expecting the risk of severe threat for this afternoon and the overnight hours. We're talking about 9 million people at risk for this severe weather, especially here in this area for parts of Texas, Louisiana, and even into Arkansas. Damaging hail up to 2 inches or greater, wind gusts of 60 miles per hour are possible, and a few tornadoes too could develop as this storm system continues to trek on towards the east. So we have a threat of severe weather extending from Texas to Mississippi, but we also have winter weather advisories up here through Idaho into Michigan, and that's due to this Clipper system that's going to be moving across today into tomorrow. The storm intensifies as it moves over the Midwest, and we are expecting, as this other storm approaches the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, we are expecting some rain and storms to develop tomorrow throughout the day, continuing into Wednesday. Wednesday, the rain will gradually taper off along the East Coast, but we do have some lake effect snow that will be developing in this area, and could bring a couple of inches, as even some feet of snow to parts of that location. As far as the rainfall, we're talking about 1 to 2 inches that could be falling across the Gulf states through Wednesday. And up here north, we can even see some over a foot of snow that could fall near the Great Lakes in parts of Wisconsin, Minnesota, even into Michigan. So today, here's our holiday travel weather. If you're heading out early, you're looking at sun and clouds along the East Coast. Obviously, those severe storms that are likely cause some delays in Texas and in the Northwest. could impact, obviously, travel across the roads as well, with that possibility of some flash flooding that can develop in that area. Wednesday, the rain will be more towards the eastern coast. We do have some snow and wind also impacting the Great Lakes region. Sunny skies will be present Wednesday in Dallas and in Texas, parts of Texas, while we are expecting the isolated delays in the southeast as front moves out of the region. Then for as far as impacts on the roads, it will remain rainy and snowy over the mountain passes in the North Rockies, so you want to take care on that. And there's that Thanksgiving Day forecast. We do have that lake effect snow, rain and wind in the Pacific Northwest, sunny and mild along the southeast. And of course, we're watching the wind forecast here in New York City.
Balloon forecast.
Yes, because temperatures are going to drop for Thanksgiving.
Okay.
And not only that, but we're having the winds. We're talking they're going to be near that threshold of 34-mile-per-hour wind gusts.
Okay.
So we have to see how far Buzz Lightyear flies.
That's important. Okay, yeah, it might be low, could be high. We'll see. But last year it rained, so as long as it's not raining, I'll take it.
Yes, it's going to be sunny and bright.
That's
so
great. Okay.
that'll be good for the parade.
Thanks, Andrea.
Exciting.
Much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, talking Turkey about tariffs, how the ongoing trade war could affect how much you spend on your Thanksgiving spread this year.
Up first, though, after the break, back in custody, an intense manhunt for one of the schoolgirls behind the infamous Slender Man stabbing now over this morning. We'll bring you the latest up next.
We're back now with an overnight development in the hunt for a woman who was convicted in the infamous Slender Man stabbing attack more than a decade ago.
Yeah, authorities say 23-year-old Morgan Geyser is back in custody. They say she managed to remove a monitoring bracelet and fled from a group home in Wisconsin where she'd been living. NBC News correspondent Emily Ikeda has the latest.
This morning, the end of a frantic search. Morgan Geyser, one of the schoolgirls behind the horrific 2014 Slender Man stabbing, taken into custody overnight in Illinois after police say she escaped a Wisconsin group home. Authorities say the now 23-year-old Geyser cut off an ankle monitoring bracelet and fled the home Saturday night, traveling with an adult acquaintance who has not been publicly identified.
She said she was stabbed multiple times.
The infamous attack took place 11 years ago when Geyser and a friend lured a 6th grade classmate, Peyton Leitner, to a park in Waukesha after a sleepover. Geyser stabbed Leitner at least 19 times, who miraculously survived. All 3 girls were just 12 years old at the time.
Keeping our children safe is more challenging now than in years past.
According to their defense attorneys, the children believed they had to attack their friend to please Slender Man, a faceless fictional killer that had a large online following at the time and later became the basis of a 2018 horror film. Following a high-profile trial, Geyser originally pled guilty to attempted first-degree murder, but that plea was later vacated and she was found not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect and sentenced to 40 years in a mental institution. She recalled the attack in court 3 years later.
And what part of her body did you stab her?
Everywhere.
Do you know how many times you did it?
19.
Over the summer, a judge approved her conditional release to a group home where she fled from this weekend. Before her capture, her family and her lawyer urging her to stop running.
Obviously, it's in her best interest to turn herself in immediately.
And our thanks to Emily Ikeda for that report. Before Geyser's capture overnight, the family of the victim told NBC News that Peyton Leitner was safe. They were working with law enforcement. Police say Geyser will be extradited to a county jail. A member of the Kennedy family is sharing some heartbreaking news. Over the weekend, former President John F. Kennedy's granddaughter revealed she only has about a year to live after she was diagnosed with a rare terminal cancer. She's only 35 years old. NBC News correspondent Valerie Castro has more.
The latest tragedy to strike the famed Kennedy family. Tatiana Schlossberg, former President John F. Kennedy's granddaughter, revealing a devastating diagnosis, terminal cancer. In an essay in The New Yorker, the married mother of 2 describing how doctors discovered an abnormally high white blood cell count just hours after giving birth to her daughter in May of 2024, writing, "I didn't feel sick. I was actually one of the healthiest people I knew." 5-year-old battling acute myeloid leukemia, an aggressive blood and bone marrow disorder.
It is a rare case of a rare disease, and makes it, unfortunately, one of the hardest to treat forms of leukemia.
Schlossberg writing, her doctor told her after her last clinical trial he could keep her alive for maybe a year, saying, "My first thought was that my kids, whose faces live permanently on the inside of my eyelids, wouldn't remember me." Schlossberg also bringing attention to her cousin, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and his cuts to healthcare research and funding, calling him, quote, "an embarrassment to me and the rest of my immediate family." The daughter of Caroline Kennedy, Schlossberg has largely avoided the family spotlight, working as an environmental journalist and sharing her work on Today in 2019.
I think climate change is, the biggest story in the world, and if I could, help communicate about it, that might inspire other people to get involved and work on the issue.
Caroline Kennedy's cousin, Maria Shriver, encouraging others to read the essay, writing on Instagram, "Let it be a reminder to be grateful for the life you are living today." Valerie Castro, NBC News, New York.
Well, coming up on Morning News Now, a different type of devastating diagnosis for more and more young women.
Said to me, it does look like cancer, and oh, by the way, you're not the first young female I've seen today that has lung cancer.
Up next, what is behind an alarming rise in lung cancer for young women who have no history of smoking? We'll be right back. We are back with a concerning medical trend among women in the U.S. Doctors say they're seeing more cases of young women being diagnosed with lung cancer, women who have no history of smoking. Experts say lung cancer is the deadliest cancer in the U.S.
A new study published just last week revealed that the current screening guidelines are missing the majority of lung cancer cases. Doctors say early detection is key to try and cure it. NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa has more from that study, including the push for expanded screening guidelines.
An active Chicago mother in her mid-40s, Danielle Hoig, was stunned.
Did you ever think that you were someone who could get lung cancer?
No, never.
Early last year, this scan showing this white mass proved her wrong.
I thought, well, no way do I have lung cancer because I don't smoke.
Her doctor delivering a second blow.
He said to me, it does look like cancer, and oh, by the way, you're not the first young female I've seen today that has lung cancer.
Doctors we spoke with from around the country say they're seeing more young women like Danielle with no history of tobacco use diagnosed with lung cancer. And a new study from Northwestern Medicine shows 65% of people diagnosed with lung cancer today don't qualify for regular screenings that could have caught the disease sooner. That's because current screening guidelines only cover adults 50 to 80 years old who've smoked the equivalent of a pack a day for 20 years. Among those diagnosed too late, Northwestern researchers say more younger non-smokers, the majority women.
They're like, what did I do wrong? I've not smoked. I've never had alcohol. I eat healthy. I exercise. I have stage 4 lung cancer.
Chief of Thoracic Surgery, Dr. Ankit Bharat.
Do we know why lung cancer rates are on the rise among younger women who have never smoked? Do we know why this is happening?
Well, we actually don't right now.
Dr. Bharat says the culprit could be environmental factors like air pollution or things more commonly inhaled by women like cosmetics, aerosols, gas stoves, or cleaning products. But none of that is proven. What is known, lung cancer is the leading cause of cancer deaths nationwide. Dr. Bharat is now calling to change the screening guidelines to include all adults 40 to 85. Hoig, whose cancer was caught early by an unrelated scan and treated, still wonders, why her?
I could have died and my children would have been without their mom. Really, anyone can get it.
Maggie Vespa, NBC News, Chicago.
For more on this, we are joined by NBC News medical contributor Dr. Natalie Azar. Dr. Azar, good morning. Thanks so much for being here. This hits home for me. My aunt had never smoked before. She passed away from lung cancer. This is such a real thing impacting so many of Americans. We heard there some reasons why doctors think that this could be happening. Do you think, though, doctor, I think this is a valid question anytime we talk about cancer diagnoses, are more women getting the disease, or does this have to do with screening getting better?
So in this case, it really, I think,
is the fact that more women are getting diagnosed. It's not because of screening. Remember that currently screening guidelines for lung cancer are what we refer to as risk-based. That means you're only eligible to get screened if you've had a history of smoking. Only about 35% of individuals who get diagnosed with lung cancer meet current eligibility criteria. So it isn't like we're picking up more cases through screening, Savannah.
So beyond smoking, who is most at risk for lung cancer?
So people who we think are at a higher risk are people who've had a prior diagnosis of cancer, secondhand smoke exposure, environmental exposures, as Maggie said in her piece, as well as family history, which really points to genetics. The frustrating thing here, Joe, is that you may not be aware of your risk factors, right? When we say environmental, that's a pretty big bucket. That could include things like air pollution, radon exposure in your home, things like that. So unfortunately, for anyone listening to this out there, it's not like an immediate thing that you can do today or tomorrow, to find out what your risk necessarily is.
Should women who are listening to this talk to their doctor about screening? Like, if the guidelines aren't officially changing, what can a woman sort of take into her own hands when it comes to, hey, I would like to be screened for this?
Right. And so in spite of the fact that I just said that, there's not a checklist of things that you can immediately start changing in your own life, as opposed to certain other kinds of cancers, I would recommend that if people are concerned, maybe based on a family history or any concern about potential environmental exposures, to definitely talk to a genetic counselor about screening. The issue here is that this is, as I mentioned, current recommendations are risk-based, not age-based. If we think about examples, breast cancer, colon cancer, you don't need to have known risk factors, but we screen anyway. The issue with lung cancer screening, though, guys, is that it does involve radiation, right? So it's not just a blood test. It's not, something that doesn't have potential risks. And I think the concern here is that if you're doing decades of low-dose radiation screening, that in and of itself could increase the risk for cancer. So I think it's going to take a little while for the shift to change. There has to be a risk and cost-benefit analysis for there to be a formal recommendation to start screening younger. But I absolutely advocate for that because we're missing so many cases.
Dr. Azar, just very quickly, for women, especially in their 20s and 30s who are worried about this, what are the things they can do to lower their risk of getting lung cancer?
I mean, to state the obvious, right? I mean, if you're smoking at all, and I would also include vaping in this. We know that vaping has far, far less carcinogens than tobacco smoke, but there's still a potential for risk there. And I would just say that the usual things, talk to your family about history, and I will restate that I think it is important for people to be as aware as possible. You could certainly pay out of pocket and ask for screening yourself, although I don't necessarily recommend that, again, because of the long-term radiation exposure. But, something to definitely have a conversation with about genetic counselors. This is what they do. Oncology, genetic counselors have these conversations with people every day.
All right, Dr. Azar, important stuff. Thank you so much.
Coming up, artificial intelligence, a real threat. When we come back, a look at the growing concern about AI in the workplace and how one company is trying to fix that.
And the Titanic-sized price tag for a treasure linked to the infamous shipwreck. This is Morning News Now. We are back with the sticker shock that millions of Americans are feeling this holiday season. Prices had skyrocketed for several grocery items. You've noticed beef, coffee. That's all because of President Trump's tariff policies. Now, though, the president is reversing course, rescinding some of his tariffs, and just days before Thanksgiving. NBC News senior business correspondent Christine Romans explains.
President Trump and New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani trading compliments instead of their usual insults after a White House meeting Friday.
I really think he has a chance to do a great job. We're going to help him.
And I appreciate the meeting with the president, which focused again on the 5 boroughs and whether New Yorkers could afford to live there.
The two leaders could not be further apart politically, but both rose to power tapping into Americans' anger over the cost of living.
Under Biden and the radical left Democrats, inflation is wiping out our middle class.
We are the most expensive city in the United States of America.
President Trump downplayed those concerns before this month's election day.
I don't want to hear about the affordability because right now we're much. You look at energy, we're getting close to $2 a gallon gasoline.
But after after a Democratic sweep,
we will start with last night's election results. Democrats picking up big wins.
He changed his tune. This past week, the White House rolling back tariffs on more than 200 food products, including staples like bananas, beef, and coffee. Prices for many of those on the rise. Coffee up more than 41%, steak nearly 13%, and ground beef almost 12%. Eggs, which skyrocketed last year, now down slightly. Still, the president not conceding his tariffs may be exacerbating rising prices.
Walmart just announced that the cost of their standard Thanksgiving meal is reduced by 25%.
True, but Walmart's 2025 Thanksgiving bundle, which costs about $40, contains just 23 items compared to last year's 29. A recent Goldman Sachs analysis finding U.S. consumers are shouldering as much as 55% of the costs of these tariffs. And shoppers aren't happy about it. An NBC News poll conducted just last month found 2/3 of registered voters believe the Trump administration has fallen short on the economy and the cost of living. And according to a Fox News poll, 46% of registered voters say the Trump administration's policies have hurt them, while only 15% say they've helped. Adding to the nation's affordability crisis, the recent government shutdown, which forced some to rush to food pantries because of worker furloughs and the pause in SNAP benefits.
It's very emotional when you don't know how you're going to feed yourself or your family.
While the shutdown is over, worries about the cost of putting food on the table remain. Christine Romans, NBC News.
More Money News now. Kohl's is expected to tap a new chief executive.
NBC's Emily Lors joins us with that and other Wall Street headlines for our Monday Minute. Hey, Emily, good morning.
Hey, Joe and Savannah, good morning. As we get near to one of the biggest shopping days of the year, one retailer is expected to appoint a new permanent CEO. Kohl's will name Michael Bender to the role as early as today, according to Bloomberg. This comes after the company fired its previous CEO in May after an investigation uncovered his undisclosed personal relationship with a vendor. And that was the company's third CEO changeup in 3 years. And Waymo's hitting the gas on its robo-taxi rollout. The company already operates in a few parts of California as well as several other states, but it now says it's officially authorized to have its driverless rides across a much larger region in both the Bay Area and Southern California. The company says riders can expect services in San Diego by mid-2026 as it continues pushing into new cities nationwide. Finally, a piece of Titanic history just set a new record. A gold pocket watch belonging to first-class passenger and iconic businessman Isidore Straus sold for more than $2 million. It's the highest price ever paid for Titanic memorabilia. The watch was recovered after he and his wife Ida chose to remain together as the ship went down. Now one lucky buyer walks away with a piece of history tied to a love story that millions have come to know through the film, Savannah and Joe. So that really is something I'm sure a lot of people had their eyes on.
Yeah, that must be someone who truly also is a Titanic person who cares deeply about the story.
Exactly. Wow. Thank you, Emily.
Our next story is something we cover a lot on this show, how artificial intelligence is impacting America's labor market. A majority of people are worried that AI will replace millions of human jobs in the next 5 years. But some experts argue it'll actually create new job opportunities. NBC News national correspondent Yasmin Vasugian sat down with the CEO of one company that's working to enhance AI technology with real human work.
So this is what AI came back with.
Does the AI boom mean doom for the job market? It is a big debate right now, with some companies saying it doesn't have to be a disaster for jobs, combining powerful AI tools with real human help. Megan Joyce is the CEO and founder of Duckbill, an AI-powered personal assistant.
What Duckbill does is combine all the power of AI plus the real-world last-mile practicality of humans to truly complete all of those things on your to-do list.
She says the company has already hired thousands of workers, like Nina Rodriguez, people who step in when AI can't, like when a pipe bursts, or if you absolutely need to call someone.
Hi, my name is Nina Rodriguez, and I'm calling on behalf of Yasmin Vasugian.
Or you need help sorting out a gift for a loved one. Joyce showed me how to use the Duckbill app to do just that.
So find light blue soccer bag. It comes back pretty quickly. So see how it says
We're on it. We're going to notify you when there's something ready to review.
Exactly. And if a human specialist is needed, you'll see a game plan.
But as AI gets smarter, there's a growing fear of job losses spreading through the economy. Just last month, Amazon announced it would cut 14,000 roles, with a top human resource executive saying, quote, "This generation of AI is the most transformative technology we have seen since the internet, and it's enabling companies to innovate much faster than ever before." And they're not alone. Walmart, Salesforce, and Goldman Sachs all shrinking certain teams to make way for AI. But while some roles are disappearing, new ones are emerging.
AI operator is one of these actually quite popular roles in large-scale enterprises.
Allie K. Miller, CEO of Open Machine, an AI advisory and investment firm, says workers need to keep up with the pace of change.
Taking even an hour out of your schedule every week just to see where AI is applied to your job could actually give you much stronger future-proofing.
LinkedIn data shows 70% of job skills will change by 2030 thanks to AI. And according to a World Economic Forum report, 9 million jobs may be displaced. But just like how there are more jobs today than before the internet was invented, AI could also create 11 million new ones. Miller says these tools still lack human judgment, creativity, and curation. And that's the gap companies like Duckbill are trying to fill with human beings.
Anyone who is a human in the world can come to us and our marketplace and come with their real-world knowledge, what humans know and do best, and interact with AI in a way that serves real customers in really powerful ways, and also give those workers exposure to AI skilling.
Rodriguez is already seeing how AI is helping her do her job faster.
AI kind of takes the thinking out of it, or just the busy work out of it. Again, things that would take us so long to do. Now we're able to do what I feel is more meaningful work.
So when it comes to jobs, it may not be whether AI will spell boom or doom. Instead, maybe it's better to ask, how can the new tech help you bloom? Yasmin Vasugian, NBC News.
Coming up on Morning News Now, some team spirit Thanksgiving style.
Being a gobbler is everything, you know.
We do everything we can to support the football team and the band.
I'm grateful for these kids and these coaches in this community. It's special to call yourself a Cuero Gobbler.
Gobbler. Up next, we're going to take you to one small Texas town where the high school football team makes it feel like the holiday all year round. So don't gobble away. Morning News Now. I'll be right back. Welcome back. We are ending the hour with a tradition in one Texas town that makes every week feel like Thanksgiving.
Team spirit is now at an all-time high, where a longtime turkey tit-for-tat takes place on and off the football field. And
that was my stomach. Sorry. It just makes that noise.
Such a bizarre noise. Holly Jackson has more.
Hey there, we've got a fun one for you about a different kind of turkey trot and the team spirit that's kept one small town hyped up for decades.
In Southwest Texas, turkeys are tough as nails. Here in Cuero, this is gobbler country. Not just for Thanksgiving, but all year long. Under these Friday night lights, a big chunk of this tiny town fills these stands for their home team, the Gobblers.
It's supposed to be a big game. Once a gobbler, always a gobbler.
For the team, it's all about the game.
Lead green. You can feel a heartbeat of your brother sitting next to you.
That heartbeat going through the town, too.
Number one Gobbler fans right here.
The support felt well beyond the stadium. Cuero takes pride as the self-proclaimed turkey capital of the world. With mascot Toby the Turkey. Cuero's pride also rooted in tradition. A friendly decades-long rivalry with Worthington, Minnesota, a town that also calls itself the turkey capital. Each year, turkeys from each town race to win a coveted champion title, fastest turkey. Not just for bragging rights, but to keep these gobblers' heads in the game.
Being a gobbler is everything, you know.
We do everything we can to support the football team and the band.
And in the fourth quarter, good vibes from the crowd. lifting the Gobblers to a huge comeback win.
I'm grateful for these kids and these coaches in this community. It's special to call yourself a Cuero Gobbler.
Family on three. 1, 2, 3, family.
Good week to be a gobbler, you could say. Back to you.
No kidding.
Gobbling up a win. There we go. That does it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Stay with us, though. The news continues right now. Good morning, and thanks for kicking off your work week and this holiday week with us. I'm Savannah Sellers.
I'm Joe Fryer. Right now on Morning News Now, holiday havoc. A record-breaking number of Americans expected to take to the highways and skyways this week. But Mother Nature is dishing up a nasty string of severe storms across the South just in time for all those festive feasts. We've got your full Turkey Day forecast coming up in just a bit. Also this morning, the race against the clock to seal a Ukraine-Russia peace deal by Thanksgiving. President Trump lauding weekend progress on talks while ramping up the pressure on Kyiv, says Ukraine is showing, quote, zero gratitude for America's support. What's Russia saying about it all? We've got the latest. Plus, a growing number of massive internet outages leaving popular everyday services in the dark for hours at a time. We've got some experts sounding the alarm. But it soon get even worse. And later in the hour, it's a musical sensation once again defying gravity at the box office. What's behind the success of Wicked for Good? It's making pink and green just as popular as red and green this holiday season.
True. A lot of people saw that.
A lot of people saw it. 150 million worth. We'll dive into that in a little bit. Let's start this hour with the Thanksgiving travel rush. Millions of Americans hitting the roads and skies ahead of the big holiday. AAA estimates at least 82 million people will travel more than 50 miles from home this week. And with troubles at the airports and gas prices hovering around $3 a gallon, 90% of those travelers are expected to go by car.
Severe weather, though, it is expected for much of the country over the next few days, and it could cause major travel troubles. NBC News meteorologist Andrea Romero will have the forecast for us in just a moment, but we're going to begin with NBC News correspondent Ryan Chandler, who is in Dallas this morning. Ryan, good morning.
Well, already this morning here in Dallas, travelers are getting drenched as they unload their luggage. About half of the flights in and out of Dallas already canceled or delayed this morning. The fear is this is only going to get worse for the rest of the country as this storm sweeps east over some major hubs, threatening airport travel and dangerous road conditions as millions of Americans are just trying to get home for Thanksgiving dinner. This morning, severe storms threatening to complicate what's set to be the busiest Thanksgiving travel rush ever, with AAA predicting a record-breaking 82 million Americans on the move. The weather could create chaos, from dangerous driving conditions to flight delays.
My only plan is to leave extra early just in case anything unexpected happens.
It's going to be crazy.
Overnight, Dallas drenched by the same storm system that flooded parts of Southern California over the weekend. Another 7 million Americans in the central U.S. are under flood alerts today. JFK Airport in New York already off to a turbulent start after a system outage shut down one of its terminals, forcing passengers to wait in lines for nearly 2 hours.
There was just no place to maneuver. It was pretty crazy.
Airports are anticipating 18 million passengers, the most in 15 years. Bouncing back from the government shutdown, TSA agents say they're ready.
It's like our Super Bowl. There's going to be wait times regardless. I mean, even with having all our staffing back, but we're going to do our best to minimize the length of the wait time.
What do travelers need to know to stay safe and stay sane this holiday rush?
Hiccups can happen at any point, whether it's over Thanksgiving or at any point in the year. So we want people to be prepared with what I like to call a Plan B flight or just alternate transport options if you need to make those changes last minute.
This year, with gas prices steady at $3 a gallon, 90% of travelers are opting to drive over the holiday.
So our biggest piece of advice if you are driving is to get out early.
So maybe you don't want to deal with these lines, you just want to hit the road. Well, the highways are also going to be much busier than usual, much later than usual. Some experts saying the traffic could last as late as 8 or 9 o'clock. So the rule of thumb, leave early. Joe, Savannah.
All right, Ryan, thank you. Well, for more, let's bring in AAA spokesperson Aixa Diaz. Aixa, good morning. Always great to see you, especially around this time of year. So, as Ryan just reported, 90% of holiday travelers are expected to get to their destination by driving. So let's talk through it. What are the best times to try to avoid traffic?
Hi, Savannah and Joe. Today would be ideal. Actually, right now is a pretty good time. Monday is not as busy as tomorrow and Wednesday. Those are going to be the most brutal days on the road. And the later you leave, the worse it gets. So you want to leave in the morning. If you wait until lunchtime or the afternoon, what happens is you're going to have a mix of people who are getting off work, getting off school, or just commuters, travelers who are trying to pass through your metro area. So you want to leave as early as possible, and keep in mind that that 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. window is the worst.
Let's talk about the fact that more people had to return to the office this year or be there more often. So maybe in the past you could travel Saturday, Sunday, work remotely while you're at your family's house and all that. Is that changed this year because more people have to physically be in the office?
You're right. I mean, logic would tell you, right, that if more people have been having to go back into the office and they're maybe going to be off Thursday and Friday, perhaps they have Wednesday off, most of them are going to try to leave on Tuesday or Wednesday. So that adds to the number of people who don't have the flexibility to leave earlier. Same goes with families with kids. If they're in school, they don't want to pull them out, then they're going to have to leave on Tuesday and Wednesday. So that's why those 2 days are going to be extra busy. And then don't forget Sunday. Sunday's going to be really bad, too, because that's the day most people want to get back if they have to go back to work and school on Monday.
All right, much of the country, as we've been mentioning, is expecting severe weather this week. We're going to get some more details in just a moment on exactly where, but what should drivers keep in mind if the roads get bad?
Yeah, a few safety tips. So avoid cruise control. You want to be the one in control behind the wheel if you are with severe weather, whether that's rain or whether that's snow or even ice. So the best thing to do is avoid cruise control, but also slow down and leave room. Also slow down and move over. That means when you see people on the side of the road, tow trucks, law enforcement, people who have a flat tire, you want to reduce your speed and change lanes. But speed is often the culprit of so many crashes, so just slow down. And don't panic during skids. That means that you want to reduce speed, take your foot off the gas pedal, and then turn the wheel into the direction of the skid until the car straightens out.
Wow, good tips there. By the way, in some states, you'll get a ticket if you don't move over.
Got to do it.
Speaking from experience.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know that growing up in California. Aixa, thank you so much. Good to see you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Let's bring in meteorologist Andrea Romero now for more on what is ahead for your travel forecast.
Andrea, good morning.
Good morning, Joe and Savannah. I think a lot of people are going to be putting those tips to good use this week because we have a lot of weather systems impacting the country. We're expecting definitely impacting that holiday travel. So first up, we're talking about a lot of activity here in the south this morning with the threat of severe weather this afternoon into this evening. We have the risk of severe weather extending through parts of Texas, Louisiana, even parts of Arkansas. We can have some isolated tornadoes pop up, and of course the risk of flash flooding with a lot of rainfall falling in those heavy days. In this area. So you want to stay weather alert and you want to stay away from any flooded roads, never drive through them. That's the storm system that's bringing the severe threat from Texas east into Mississippi. But we also have another Clipper system moving here along the Canadian border with winter advisories extending from Idaho east into Michigan, even into parts of New York. Tomorrow, the storm will be intensifying as it moves across the upper Midwest. Rain and storm will also be hitting the parts of the eastern coast, including parts of New England. We're expecting that rain to begin to taper off on Wednesday, but we do have some lake effect snow developing here in the Great Lakes. So if you're heading to the Great Lakes, you want to take that into consideration into your plans. We can see the winter weather advisories that I told you stretch from Montana into parts of New York. And then we have the expected snowfall amounts of maybe up to a foot in parts of the area. So it's a lot of snow that will be falling. Now today, the airport impacts will be felt Dallas, Houston, and also along the Pacific Northwest in Seattle and in Portland due to some of that rain that's falling in that area. For Wednesday, it's sunny skies extending from California into Texas. So we're not expecting much impacts there, but we do have some showers along the eastern seaboard, and we do have have that snow and that wind also along the Great Lakes. As far as the airport impacts, we're expecting some isolated delays in the southeast where we could have some storms developing as well. As far as Wednesday, if you're going to be driving the eastern seaboard, we could have some scattered showers along the I-95 corridor, and in the northwest, rainy on I-5 and some snowy conditions over the mountain passes. Then Thanksgiving Day is going to be sunny and mild for most of the country, with the exception of the Pacific Northwest and, of course, that lake effect snow. And we do have for the Thanksgiving Day parade, this is the forecast, mostly sunny and windy. And that's so important because the gusts are going to be 35 to 40 miles per hour. That threshold is at 34 miles per hour if the balloons can fly or not. So we're going to be monitoring those conditions. You know, they all throughout the parade route to make sure we can safely fly the stars.
Okay, we're going to hope that something happens to make the winds go down over the next few days.
If it's over 34, there's no balloons?
Gusts,
if it's over 30, the gusts.
Yeah.
Has that happened?
There's no balloons.
I don't know.
I'm sure it has, but not recently.
They could bring them down.
They can bring them lower.
And they would still be okay.
Yes, usually what they do is they bring them lower, but they have to be really careful.
I mean, it will still be great. Yes, even without the balloons.
Of course,
all right.
of course.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Andrea.
All right, well, President Trump says, quote, something good just may be happening in the war between Russia and Ukraine.
In a social media post this morning, the president appeared to echo the optimistic tone struck by U.S. and Ukrainian officials who said progress was made during talks in Geneva yesterday. Those talks aimed at ending the war. NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel is in Geneva and joins us with the latest. Richard, good morning.
Good morning from a wet and cold Geneva. Yes, discussions are underway here. President Trump is sounding optimistic, but these are not full-blown negotiations. The Russian side isn't here. This is mostly focused on getting the Ukrainians to agree to a peace proposal. Now, President Trump wants the Ukrainian side to agree before Thanksgiving, but some Ukrainians and some European officials say the terms as they are now are favorable to Russia.
After President Trump set a Thanksgiving deadline to end the deadliest war in Europe since World War II, his top foreign policy team, led by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, arrived in Geneva to meet with Ukrainian officials.
I feel very optimistic that we can get something done here because we made a tremendous amount of progress today.
But as the talks were underway, Russian attacks on Ukrainian civilians were unrelenting, with new drone strikes in the eastern city of Kharkiv. Russia so far isn't taking part in the Switzerland talks, which appear mainly to be putting pressure on Ukraine. Secretary Rubio suggested a deal may not come together by Thanksgiving, the president's preferred deadline. President Trump was asked this weekend what would happen if Zelenskyy doesn't agree by then.
Then he can continue to fight his little heart out.
Trump posting on social media that Ukraine leadership has expressed zero gratitude for our efforts.
You have to be thankful.
It's the same jab President Trump used to embarrass President Zelenskyy in the Oval Office earlier this year. Zelenskyy once again responded, saying overnight he is grateful for U.S. support, mentioning Trump by name. But Zelenskyy refused to commit to the 28-point deal, which even some of Trump's Republican allies say reflects Vladimir Putin's demands for ending the war. While not finalized, the peace proposal would require Ukraine to hand over the vast Donbas region to Moscow, including territory Ukraine still controls. Ukraine would have to shrink its armed forces, give up certain weapons, and remain neutral in security alliances, in exchange for Russia giving up very little.
European countries have countered with their own detailed proposal. They say it's based on the 28-point plan that the Trump administration has put forward, and the European proposal appears to be more favorable to Ukraine.
All right, Richard, thank you so much. Let's continue this conversation with Kira Rudik. She is a Ukrainian member of parliament and the leader of the political party Holos. Kira, good to have you with us. We appreciate you talking with us about this. Both the U.S. and Ukrainian delegations said progress has been made after drafting that updated, refined peace framework. Are you optimistic your government is giving what you want, especially after so many people were concerned with that initial 28-point plan?
Hello, and thank you so much for having me. Well, we applaud to the progress that's being made with these discussions. But unfortunately, I'm not optimistic that anything that Ukraine and US delegations would agree to will be then something that we can have Russia agree to. By this point, President Trump was not able to get anything from Russia that he requested, right? He was trying to get as a first step, a ceasefire, which never happened. And even right now, when these peace talks are happening, Russia continues to attack us. So what would be the way to pressure Russia into the next step in these negotiations? What would be the next move by President Trump? It is unclear right now. And that means that these discussions, even if they are successful with the US delegations, will then lead to nothing. This is what I'm worried about, that we are getting a hope that will not get anywhere and the war will continue.
Kira, President Trump has had a pretty volatile relationship with President Zelenskyy. Recently, we even see President Trump saying that Kyiv has shown zero gratitude for U.S. support. Are you worried that Ukraine could be forced to accept an unsatisfactory proposal just so that you can maintain U.S. support?
President Zelenskyy is representing Ukrainian people, but he cannot be a point of pressure, because at the end, any deal that will be agreed on will have to be ratified in Ukrainian parliament. And so President Trump may try to pressure Zelenskyy, but at the end, we cannot sacrifice the fate of the nation to the relationships of two leaders. And I do not believe that that would happen. So right now, I think we need to concentrate on the point of security guarantees. That is the first time when guarantees from the United States appeared in such document, figuring out how to make it work, and then coming back to President Trump saying, okay, well, Ukraine was never a problem. Russia was always a problem. You need to start putting pressure on Russia.
But there is a fine line to walk, right, with President Trump? Like, could Ukraine cope without U.S. support?
It will be very hard, and this is a question to our European allies on what can they offer to cover for some of the U.S. support, and then on what should be the version of the final deal, because our European partners need to have a say in that, because the war is happening on European continent. Anyways, I see right now that we are still in the discussion mode and not in the decision-making mode, and we just hope that President Trump realizes once again that Ukraine by this time has agreed to everything that he offered, to a ceasefire, to a rare minerals deal, to President Zelenskyy meeting Putin. And unfortunately, nothing had come from the Russian side. So he will have at some point to turn his eyes to Russia and see what we have seen altogether, that Russia has started the war and Russia is the main blocker in ending the war.
Kira Rudik, as always, we appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Well, back in Washington, President Trump insists the Republican Party has never been more unified, despite a surprise resignation announcement from his one-time ally in Congress, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. It comes as the president sharpens his attacks on a group of Democratic lawmakers who released a video you're seeing on your screen right now. This was last week, directed at members of the military. NBC News senior White House correspondent Garrett Haake joins us now with the latest. Garrett, good morning.
Hey, Savannah, good morning. And yeah, in a span of just a few weeks, Greene went from a top Trump ally to a vocal congressional critic. And now she says she's headed home to Georgia with no future political plans. This morning, President Trump escalating attacks on Democrats and saying his own party is united in the face of a high-profile departure.
I'll be resigning from office
after Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene's decision to step down in January, a surprising twist for the one-time MAGA star who had been one of Mr. Trump's loudest defenders before a bitter feud with the president culminated with her support for the release of the Jeffrey Epstein files.
Standing up for American women who were raped at 14 years old, trafficked and used by rich, powerful men should not result in me being called a traitor and threatened by the President of the United States, whom I fought for.
Yesterday, Green denying rumors that she could run for president in a lengthy post, while Trump attempting to shrug off any whispers of division in his party, calling Green and other Republicans who disagree with him lowlifes, and writing, "The Republican Party has never been so united as it is right now," while reassuring Republicans, Trump overnight continuing to go after 6 Democrats with an online barrage, reposting comments on social media calling them traitorous, and this AI-generated image of the Democrats behind bars. The lawmakers released a video last week urging military and intelligence officers to refuse unlawful orders from the administration.
You can refuse illegal orders.
Last week, the president accusing them of seditious behavior, saying their actions could be punishable by death. But it comes as reaction continues to a much friendlier tone Trump struck on Friday with a different opponent.
Congratulations, Mr. Mayor.
Meeting in the Oval Office with New York City's mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani, a Democratic socialist who'd traded attacks with Trump throughout his campaign.
Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about... That's okay, you can just say yes. Okay. It's easier.
Mamdani discussing the meeting Sunday on Meet the Press.
Because I'm not coming into the Oval Office to make a point or make a stand. I'm coming in there to deliver for New Yorkers.
And Garrett, even more news to discuss here. I understand there's also some major news on Elon Musk's White House initiative. Our viewers probably remember this DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency. What's that?
Yes, Savannah, for all intents and purposes, DOGE is done. The Department of Government Efficiency as an actual office within the federal government is no more, according to the government's top HR official. That's 8 months ahead of the date it was scheduled to wrap up under the executive order that initially created it. This Elon Musk-led agency axed tens of thousands of jobs from the federal government in the early months of this year, but it really lost a lot of its mojo when Musk himself left government back in May. He said at the time that DOGE would continue as an office in the government and also kind of a governing philosophy, but now that office is closed. Savannah?
Right. Garrett, thank you.
Much more to come on this hour of Morning News Now. A little later, we'll dig into those recent internet outages that are bringing big headaches to millions across the globe, why some experts say the worst could be yet to come.
Up first, though, after the break, a devastating diagnosis for one of the granddaughters of President John F. Kennedy. The emotional reveal of yet another tragedy plaguing an American political dynasty. That's next. We are back with an emotional new essay from John F. Kennedy's granddaughter opening up about her health.
Yeah, Tatiana Schlossberg, the 35-year-old daughter of Caroline Kennedy, shared she has been diagnosed with a rare terminal cancer. NBC News senior national correspondent Stephanie Goss joins us now with more on this. Steph, good morning.
Hey, guys, this is a tough one. Good morning to you. Tatiana Schlossberg has been battling a very rare type of leukemia for over a year and a half now, doing it privately until this weekend when she revealed that she, a young mother of 2, is dying. And in a very personal essay, she discusses her diagnosis and the deep pain she feels that her illness is adding to a long line of Kennedy tragedies. A new tragedy for America's most famous political family. Tatiana Schlossberg revealing that she's dying at 35 years old from an aggressive type of blood cancer, and that doctors say she has just a year to live. Schlossberg, the daughter of Caroline Kennedy and granddaughter of former President John F. Kennedy, says doctors made the discovery in May 2024 after a routine blood test following the birth of her second baby. I wasn't sick. I didn't feel sick, Schlossberg writes. I had a son whom I loved more than anything and a newborn I needed to take care of. This could not possibly be my life. The young mother sharing her story in The New Yorker, also writing about her family, whose legacy she has praised over the years.
While my grandfather had reverence for the past, he also knew that America was a country where change was possible.
The 35-year-old now expressing her sadness that she's adding another chapter to the family's long line of tragedy and the pain it will cause her mother, Caroline. Writing, now I have added a new tragedy to her life, to our family's life, and there's nothing I can do to stop it. Her diagnosis, acute myeloid leukemia, is known as AML.
People with AML might experience some symptoms that are pretty common, symptoms such as fatigue, sometimes abnormal bleeding, but there are a number of cases of patients who have had no symptoms whatsoever.
In the essay, Schlossberg is critical of her cousin HHS Secretary RFK Jr. for cutting funding to critical cancer research, calling it an embarrassment to me and the rest of my immediate family. Schlossberg has largely stayed out of the spotlight, instead focusing on her career as an environmental journalist.
I
think it's important for everyone to serve in the way that suits their strengths.
Her cousin, Maria Shriver, now writing, "Let it be a reminder to be grateful for the life you are living today." Now Schlossberg says her focus is enjoying the time she has left with her family. Writing, "Mostly, I try to live and be with them now. Being in the present is harder than it sounds." Tatiana's children are very young, 3 and about 1.5. In this essay, she thanks her husband, George, and her siblings, Rose and Jack, and her parents for all being tirelessly by her side and helping raise her children during this time. And, you know, guys, one of the focuses of this article as well is to shine a light on this particular kind of cancer, which is in those group of cancers that are close to being cured. Research is so important. She obviously takes time out in this essay to point a finger at her cousin, who has definitely taken some of the funding away to some of the research into her particular kind of cancer.
And it's important for her to shine a light on that, but also we think of the grief just for her children, also her mother. We know how hard that's going to be for them. But
it's a heartbreaking story.
Yeah.
Well, yep, it really is. Wow, Steph, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Let's get you international news now. A closer look at what's making headlines around the world, starting with the latest in the Middle East.
Israel says that it has assassinated a top Hezbollah leader in Lebanon.
NBC News international correspondent Claudio Lavanga joins us now from Rome to take us around the world in 60 seconds. Hey, Claudio, good morning.
Savannah, Joe, good morning. Well, that's right. The Israeli military said that on Sunday they carried out an airstrike in the suburbs of Beirut, where they targeted and killed the acting chief of staff of Hezbollah. But the Lebanese health minister said the strike killed 5 people in total, injuring another 28. This is the first airstrike on the capital of Lebanon in months and came despite the U.S. brokered truce signed a year ago. A Hezbollah official, Mahmoud Kumati, said Israel crossed the red line and said the militant group will decide on whether and how it will respond. Let's go to Nigeria now, where a Christian group said 50 of the 303 children kidnapped by gunmen from a Catholic school on Friday have escaped and have been reunited with their families. Following the kidnapping, Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu recruited an additional 30,000 police officers and launched a major military-led search and rescue operation, which is underway for the remaining 265 children and 12 teachers still in captivity. And let's end this tour of the world in Brazil, where former President Jair Bolsonaro blamed medicine-induced paranoia and hallucination for his attempt to tamper with his electronic ankle monitor. Bolsonaro was taken into custody on Sunday for fear he could flee 100 days after he was placed under house arrest for his role in plotting a coup to remain in power after losing the 2022 election. He told the court that he tampered with the ankle bracelet after drugs prescribed by doctors for his chronic hiccups led him to imagine there was listening equipment inside the tracking device. Well, guys, I guess that he can claim in his defense that it was just a hiccup and that he will never do it again. Back to you guys.
All right.
Good
one. Story there. Thank you, Claudio. Coming up, a $100 deposit to one Trump-backed business venture gets you. Well, it seems like a whole lot of nothing, at least at this moment.
Yeah, when we come back, the so-called Trump mobile phone that's nowhere to be found after months of delays. That's next on Morning News Now.
Back now with a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning, starting with more on those concerning bomb threats against Democrats who told members of the military to refuse illegal orders.
NBC News legal affairs reporter Gary Grumbach has the latest for us today. Gary, good morning.
Joe and Savannah, good Monday morning. Here's what's happening in politics now. Law enforcement around the country is investigating after bomb threats were called into the homes and offices of several members of Congress this weekend. The unsubstantiated threats were directed at 5 of the 6 Democratic lawmakers who called on members of the United States military and intelligence community to refuse orders from their leadership if they believe those orders to be unlawful. The threats come after President Trump accused the members of, quote, seditious behavior that is, quote, punishable by death. The Department of Justice is asking a judge in Florida to unseal grand jury records related to the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. This is all part of the administration's apparent attempt to release files related to Epstein that may be in the government's possession. Though because of prior investigations and releases, there may not be a great deal of new information that would be made public from this unsealing. This comes as the House Oversight Committee has decided not to interview close Epstein associate and convicted sex offender Ghislaine Maxwell as part of a larger congressional investigation into Epstein. Congressman James Comer saying it would be a waste of taxpayer dollars to conduct this interview after Maxwell's attorney indicated she would be pleading the Fifth the entire time. Comer does plan to interview former President Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton as part of the investigation. And finally, the Supreme Court is temporarily allowing the state of Texas to use newly drawn congressional maps that would allow them to pick up an additional 5 House seats in next year's midterm elections, after a lower court blocked the move earlier this week. This administrative stay allows the state to use the GOP-drawn maps while the court further reviews the case. Democratic and Republican states around the country have tried to make similar moves as the fight for control of Congress heats up. Back to you guys.
All right, Gary, thank you very much. Well, this morning we are taking a look at a mystery that's brewing over the Trump family's foray into the world of smartphones. You might remember back in June, it was actually on the 10th anniversary of Donald Trump's presidential campaign, President Trump's 2 elder sons announced the launch of a new American-made mobile phone along with a wireless service called Trump Mobile.
The release was slated to happen in August. Now, 3 months later, our business and data correspondent Brian Chung says the phone is nowhere to be found.
Brian is here on set with us to discuss, and Brian knows that because you actually ordered one of these. Yeah. And we're promised that August date, promised another date, I understand. What are you learning?
Yeah, and moreover, there was a $100 deposit that you had to put down, which I did put down to try to get this phone. They said that they would deliver the phone and you would pay the rest of the $399 when it would be delivered. They said that would happen in August, and here we are in November. I've been following up with Trump Mobile asking, where is this phone? I've been repeatedly told, seemingly on a perpetual basis, that it would be coming next month. That's the latest update I got. They said, yes, it'll be coming in December. They haven't pointed to any sort of reason for this, but again, there's skepticism over whether or not this phone, which was originally marketed as made in the USA, is actually going to be made in the USA, if it exists at all. And there is, moreover, this question now of whether or not it'll ever get delivered to anyone. Again, we're 3 months into this. They've offered no explanation for it. The Trump Organization did not respond to our request for comment, and neither did Trump Mobile.
What are some industry insiders telling you about this as far as what they're seeing?
Yeah, well, look, there is deep skepticism over the ability to sell a $499 phone here in the United States. That's made here. And what is very interesting is that I noticed that on the website, it was originally in August when pre-orders were being taken or when it was supposed to be delivered, that it was going to be made in the USA. The website now scrubbed all mention of that. It's just saying it's proudly American. So I think that semantic difference is notable. And some folks that I've spoken to, including smartphone makers in the United States that make some of the parts that are in some of the phones that we use on a daily basis, they have suggested it is nearly impossible for an American-made phone to be made that quickly here in the United States at that $499 price point.
Brian, I'm kind of fascinated by you getting in touch with them. So there's like a
call line.
Customer service. You call it, what happens?
Yeah, and they're very
pick up
responsive.
Okay.
And the human being is on the other side of that phone call. Apparently, it's a call center based in St. Louis, Missouri. The kind of response I've been getting every time I ask for updates on this phone is it'll be coming out soon. There are delays in this. We want to make sure that we take all the time that we need to make sure that this is truly American made. But again, no explanations. Although in one call about a month ago, they did blame it on the government shutdown. Again, no elaboration on that, but nonetheless, there's still no phone. I've got no updates since then beyond the confirmation email that I got alongside, by the way, I should mention, a scam alert from my credit card company.
Oh, yeah,
confirming that I actually was authorizing a $100 payment to Trump Mobile. I have heard nothing from the company.
Do we have any idea if someone wanted their $100 deposit back, if they could get it back at this point, or are we unsure?
We're unsure. And for what it's worth, I've been trying to locate people online that have actually put an order for the Trump Mobile as well, for the T1 phone as well. I have not been able to locate anybody. For that reason, I think that it's difficult to also say if anyone's also asked for their refund.
So interesting that there's like no phones to be had, but there is a customer service.
There is a call center, and they're always very quick to pick up.
Hey, all right, Brian, thank you.
Yep.
Coming up, are all those widespread recent big tech outages just the tip of the internet iceberg?
Good Morning News Now returns why some experts are now sounding the alarm over just how frequently they're disrupting our lives and the fears it could get worse before it gets better. That's next. We are back with a look at those massive internet disruptions, sparking concerns among experts and businesses.
An hours-long crash last week at the internet services company Cloudflare became just the latest outage to cause problems for many people and businesses. It's all leading to fears that we are too dependent on just a handful of companies to keep the internet going.
For more on this, let's bring in NBC News cybersecurity reporter Kevin Collier. Kevin, good to have you with us. So this was the third major global outage in just a month. The number you say in your article is unprecedented in such a short span of time. Explain what's causing these outages, and does it look like something we're going to continue to see?
Yeah, they all happen for different technical reasons, but the root issue is the same for all of them, which is we've had this steady consolidation for years now of companies that run cloud services for websites, big and small. They scale really well, so that means they offer a lot of storage space, cybersecurity services, computing power. That makes a lot of business sense for everybody to just jump on board with these big companies that do it well. But software is inherently fundamentally buggy. And so in each of these cases, they would issue an update of some kind. And that just cascaded through all of them and crashed the entire system for, a substantial portion of the internet. As whether this is here to stay, they all say these are kind of like one-off rare issues, but they keep happening to all the major, not all, but to many of the major companies that do this.
Kevin, how are the companies responding to this, including are they sharing how they could prevent like a more serious meltdown?
Nobody's promising that they're going to prevent something like this. They all give technical explanations for what happened, pretty detailed. And some, like Cloudflare, have really profoundly apologized, that they've been really apologetic that they crashed so much the internet. Others are not quite as apologetic. But the guardrails that we see are largely just what we see. When this happens, they scramble engineers to undo it as quickly as they can, and that might take hours, but then we just kind of wait for them.
We are seeing some people, that includes Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, calling for these big companies to be broken up. She wrote on X, if a company can break the entire internet, they are too big. Is this something more people are calling for, pushing for harsher sanctions when outages happen, or these companies do need to be broken up?
Yeah, there's some, especially from kind of like progressive tech critics and nonprofit sector that have been calling for regulations. Maybe Congress should do something about it. Maybe the FTC should step in. But I don't think we should really expect to see anything during the Trump administration, given how extremely opposed to most tech regulations it has been.
All right. Kevin Collier, good to have you with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, many people are gearing up for Thanksgiving celebrations. We're also gearing up for the biggest shopping weekend of the year, right? Experts predict Black Friday and Cyber Monday will have record-breaking sales. And that is even though a lot of us are cutting back amid tariffs and rising prices. NBC's Hallie Jackson spoke to the CEO of Macy's, who said he is optimistic about the holiday shopping season.
Hey there. I don't have to tell you, it is a big week ahead for holiday shopping. And this year, it's expected to set a new record, even with the economy feeling uncertain for a lot of folks. And with those new tariffs put in place by the Trump administration, predicted to cost customers more this year. Well, now the Macy's CEO, in an exclusive interview, responding to some of those challenges with optimism for what could be a very merry season ahead for some retailers. More people than ever expected to shop this Thanksgiving weekend. For many customers, sales day. And for many companies, payday. Ahead of what the National Retail Federation predicts will be a shopping season that tops $1 trillion for the first time. The average customer spending nearly $900.
They might be doing what makes sense for their family to make ends meet. We also know that consumers, they're prioritizing this, but they're doing what makes sense elsewhere.
Still, this year, tariffs could trim what ends up under the tree, adding about $130 to the average American's holiday bill, according to one estimate.
It's definitely going to have an impact on shopping.
Has that been a hassle for Macy's navigating this tariff environment?
Well, we'd rather have not had it, but, you don't get to control what you don't get to control.
What are you seeing from these tariffs?
Look, we've had to adjust. Some places we've not bought as much. Other places we've changed countries of production. We've tried to make sure that our assortments offer a level of variety so the consumer can choose.
We met Macy's CEO Tony Spring at the company's parade studio. Do you feel like this is your Super Bowl?
It is our Super Bowl.
Artists working on finishing touches for the floats and balloons for this week's parade.
And here, of course, we're at the Pop Mart float, which includes our favorite Labubu Land, right?
The parade kicking off a shopping sprint ahead of Black Friday, even as consumer confidence keeps dropping. And the trend line, the wealthiest shoppers spending Everyone else cutting back. Spring says Macy's, which also owns Bloomingdale's and Bluemercury, delivers a variety of price points.
Hopefully people are feeling like they have an opportunity to invest in gifts this season. And if they're having to be frugal, if they're having to be careful, if they're having to make choices, we've got options.
Do you get a little pit in your stomach when you look at the headwinds that this economy is facing right now?
Well, you can either kind of pull the covers over your head in the morning and not get out of bed, or you can say, you know what, we have every opportunity today to make it better.
New warning bells for some, with Target seeing stagnant sales as shoppers look for value, turning to places like TJ Maxx, Amazon, and Walmart, which reported strong sales and raised its profit expectations.
You want to make sure you have a good holiday for your family, but then pay the bills off, so you're like, okay, how do you balance out both?
Macy's hoping to lure customers like him with one-stop shopping. What does the department store of the next era, of the next chapter, really look like?
I love the question because I believe the department store is the modern marketplace. If you could buy for everybody on your list in one place, that's what the department store is. I think people have in their mind that it was built for a different era. And I think, frankly, it was built for the era we're in right now.
And for Macy's, part of this era also includes closing dozens of stores it says are not as productive, and earlier this year raising its profit outlook. Back to you.
All right, thank you.
Got some more financial headlines for you now. Meta back in some hot water this morning.
We've got NBC's Emily Lorsch with us with that and other money news. Hey, Emily, good morning.
Hey, guys, good morning. Meta is under new scrutiny for allegedly halting internal research after initial findings indicated that people who stopped using Facebook for 1 week became less depressed and anxious. That's according to a legal filing in federal court containing newly unredacted information. The brief was filed by parents, school districts, and government officials, plaintiffs in a case against social media companies like Meta, YouTube, Snap, and TikTok. They're claiming these companies were aware that their platforms caused mental health-related harms to kids, but failed to take action. A Meta spokesperson says, quote, "We strongly disagree with these allegations, which rely on cherry-picked quotes and misinformed opinions in an attempt to present a deliberately misleading picture." And a shakeup in the AI world, Oracle's massive AI-fueled stock surge has reversed, erasing $130 billion from co-founder Larry Ellison's net worth. Ellison briefly became the richest person in the world in September, but after weeks of losses, he slipped to the third richest spot, according to Bloomberg. Google co-founder Larry Page has jumped to number 2 with a record $260 billion. That's a result of Alphabet shares climbing about 60% this year. And as we head into the holidays, UPS and FedEx are scrambling for extra aircrafts. That's because MD-11 planes, key to both companies' air cargo fleets, were indefinitely grounded following the deadly UPS crash on November 4th that killed 14 people. The grounding is tightening capacity just as peak shipping volumes surge, forcing the companies to potentially rely on third-party charters. Analysts say, though, that this could raise costs and slow some express packages, guys. So a lot of uncertainty now, especially heading in such a busy shipping time.
So send your packages now.
Yes.
Make sure they get there.
Gotta be honest. Thank you.
Let's talk about the business of Hollywood. Over the weekend, Wicked for Good took in more than $150 million at the domestic box office, far outpacing its predecessor, Wicked, which opened to $114 million. Both movies are produced by NBC's sister company, Universal Studios, and at a time when many films are struggling to succeed at the box office, you could say Wicked is defying gravity. Today's show host Chanel Jones has more on what's making the movie so popular.
That's the tune Hollywood's box office is singing this morning after a record-breaking performance by Wicked for Good over the weekend.
Couldn't be happier, right, dear? Couldn't be happier.
The hit film smashing records with $150 million at North American theaters and more than $200 million globally.
No way. I'm obsessulated.
Beating Wicked's first chapter from last year for the biggest global opening for a stage musical adaptation.
Think of what we could do together.
The movie also creating a social media sensation.
I have been changed for good.
With Ariana Grande as Glinda and Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba, it's a mystical matchup, with the pair telling Today their off-screen friendship is just.
What do you think it is about what you have, the connection? How would you describe it?
We're like opposite sides of the same coin. And so I think we each have something the other
can love and can see in themselves. And we're just honest with each other.
And fans are feeling the chemistry, with Rotten Tomatoes popcorn meter holding at 95%, and moviegoers getting all decked out in Wicked wear, turning it into an all-out event.
Something wicked this way comes.
And the reaction? A roller coaster of love and tears.
This is me before Wicked for Good.
This is me after Wicked for Good.
Oh, babe. Wicked's success comes at a pivotal time for Hollywood, with many movies struggling at the box office this year and ticket sales way down.
The issue has been with some of these smaller films, even some of them boasting big stars, those movies just didn't connect with audiences, at least in theaters.
Movie critics say Wicked for Good is striking a nerve because it's got all the ingredients for a perfect potion.
I think a big lesson for Hollywood is that if you create movies for everyone, you can draw huge numbers of people to movie theaters. Having great stars in the mix, a PG rating, holiday time, it was a perfect recipe for success.
Thanks to Chanel for that story. It's on the list to be checking out, and you're seeing it
next weekend.
This weekend.
I can't wait. All right, coming up, a king-size serving of congratulations is in order over at DC's National Zoo.
When we come back, the incredible pregnancy announcement that's been in the oven, so to speak, for nearly a quarter century. Stay with us. That's next.
Bauer with an elephant in the room. Literally, the Smithsonian, well, not exactly literally, but close. The Smithsonian's National Zoo says one of its elephants is expecting a baby.
That room. It's the zoo's conservation efforts. And this morning, we're getting an exclusive sneak peek at the baby through a remarkable elephant ultrasound. NBC's Ryan Nobles gets a different beat this morning. He's at the elephant enclosure with the new this exciting announcement. Ryan, good morning.
Hey guys, good morning. And last week we got the chance to meet Nee Lin up close and personal. She is the 12-year-old elephant here at the National Zoo who is pregnant. Now, she has never been pregnant before, and this is a major breakthrough for the zoo because they have not had an elephant give birth here in more than 25 years.
It is a pregnancy announcement a quarter century in the making.
There are no words, really, to describe how excited we are to welcome a new addition here at the zoo.
Nee Lin, a 12-year-old elephant, is having a baby. A major breakthrough for the conservation of Asian elephants, which are endangered. Fewer than 50,000 estimated to be living in the wild. So any pregnancy is a big deal. But for one to happen in a zoo is rare and could lead to more. Dr. Donald Neefer leads a team of veterinarians responsible for the National Zoo's elephant herd's care.
This is huge, and certainly for our facility, we haven't had a baby on the ground for quite some time.
Nee Lin bred with the zoo's only bull elephant, Spike, a longtime D.C. resident. Since then, it's been an exhaustive process of making sure the baby is healthy. And many of the ways they check on Nee Lin are much like what human moms go through.
How similar is this to an ultrasound that a human mom would get?
It's very similar. The only thing is, in a human, you can see the entire fetus, where we see small portions of this fetus.
We were there as Nee Lin's caretakers coaxed her over for an elephant ultrasound.
Yeah, just to kind of keep her calm.
Like it helps her know it's kind of a safe space. She's so expressive.
The expectant mama has done this before and is gently taken care of as the ultrasound is conducted. Tony Barthel and Robbie Clark are curators at the National Zoo and oversee the management of the elephant herd, which includes teaching them to voluntarily participate in their care, a process that sets the stage for these ultrasounds.
As you watch that ultrasound, Nee Lin was being reinforced with lots of her favorite food items, and through repetition and practice, we're allowed to get ourselves to where we need to be through that ultrasound monitoring. But that allows us to do everything from skin care, tooth care, the ultrasounds.
Because she is so big and her calf is so big, it requires taking the internal picture from multiple different angles. And even then, it only gives her veterinarians, like Dr. James Steele, a small sample of the growing fetus.
This fetus probably weighs somewhere between 150 and 175 pounds. and a full-term human fetus weighs 7 pounds.
Right.
So, like, it's just the size that we don't get a full elephant image at this stage of gestation.
But today, the pictures look good.
Everything's looking positive in regards to where the fetus is positioned and how it looks on ultrasound.
And her team is confident, despite all the challenges, that the baby will make it to term.
Everything right now is pointing to, we expect a normal delivery.
Which means it's time to baby-proof the elephant enclosure.
Just like I did with my kids.
Exactly. Just put that on a much larger scale.
Which hasn't been home to a little one in more than 2 decades.
We have to think about gaps that are less than throughout our facility that a young newborn calf could slip through.
A monumental moment, and one that will provide invaluable research and support to Asian elephants all over the world.
The tools we're able to develop here and the science we're able to do here has direct implications to those other populations.
And she knew we were live on television, so Neelan decided to join us. She is the elephant behind this elephant right in front of us. This elephant is actually her mother, so it is a family affair here at the National Zoo. And you guys made the joke of the elephant in the room. I prefer to say we're covering a story about the elephant in the womb. And so the question you guys probably have is whether or not we know if this is a boy or a girl. And the answer is we do not know the answer to this question yet, in part because of what we talked about in the story about the ultrasound process. They just do not ever get a full picture of the fetus, so it's difficult for them to tell the gender. So there will not be any sort of a big gender reveal party here at the National Zoo until the baby is born here in the next couple of months. But no doubt, a lot of excitement here at the zoo.
Proud mama, proud grandma, and you're going to need very big kid gates, it looks like.
No kidding. The baby pipping.
Take care of those enclosures.
Ryan, I like you at the zoo instead of the hill. That was fun. Thank you.
Different type of zoo, Capitol Hill. That'll do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Stay with us, though. The news continues right now.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.